We are going to get started right now with the headspace of masculine. We are going to be utilizing the Smith-Waite Centennial deck for the headspace of masculine right now. Can I please have 3 cards? 3 cards to clarify, please. 3 cards to clarify. 2 cards out quickly, 1 card out slowly. What do we have here? Masculine headspace, we've got the Ace of Swords in its upright. We've got the Chariot card in its reversal. And we've got the Page of Wands in its upright. Let's talk a little bit about this energy here. So this is a very, very emotional full moon we're going through. Very, very emotional full moon. I always like to stress, I always try to put a bit of caution there. Whenever we're navigating Cancerian full moons, it's easy to get carried away, particularly and especially in the realm of the emotions. The effective thing that we effectively identify or work through as it relates to energy such as this is the identification point in not being too energetically hard on the self, right? I keep wondering, perseverance, not flagellation. Okay? Perseverance, not flagellation. And why do we effectively see that? Because we keep on observing that, and for a lot of the energy right now, particularly working through these modalities, it's the understanding of what it means when we are effectively working through the space by which we know ourselves. And I want to point out what is the gift? What is the gift that we effectively come upon when we know ourselves? We heal from volatility. We heal from reactivity, right? All that reactivity becomes pragmatism. And this is what I but the modality by which we navigate cause and effect doesn't affect things with an A, right? Cause and effect does not allow us to affect things. So when we're and I think it's interesting because I almost feel like it's a little bit of this energy that's working through something and it's not allowing, right? It's not allowing another's reactivity to energetically affect the self, right? That those modalities or experiences, and I think it has a lot to do with healing from experiences or situations by which masculine has allowed their temperamentality to get the best of them, right? Because, and this is what's interesting about it, like temperament is the observation of being able to work through something with a modality of steadiness. And this is not to say, right? This is not to say that there are not moments by which we feel energetically validated in terms of feeling energetically frustrated, right? The space by which we articulate and put our force of intention towards things effectively helps us to feel energetically fervent, right? And so the space by which we feel fervently about things, right? We cannot be reactive in our fervence, right? Because when we are reactive in our fervence, it's the modality by which our intentions get lost in the wake of our temperament. So this is effectively a lot of the work that I see that the masculine is working through as it relates to relationship. Having those modalities and experiences by which they are energetically observing their own, like one's own eagerness or one's own like temperamentality that can effectively create the modality of energetically ruining something, right? Because it's the modality of it's the understanding and this is what's hard, right? Because as we maturate, we're going to see those modalities of ruination with more clarity. And I want to stress this to those that are going through those experiences. The ability to see that is a blessing, right? Because when you see something, you can work to do it better, right? You can work to effectively allow the context of changing something, right? And that modality, and this is why I like to see, and this is kind of, and this is exactly, and I just want to show you this right now because these three cards that we see in the masculine headspace are effectively the three planets that we have that are affecting the headspace, right? Because we've got Mercury, right, behind the chariot, which is in its reversal, Venus, and then we've got Mars, right? So this is a continuation of we were talking about the fact that while it doesn't feel like a Venus in retrograde, it's not technically a Venus in retrograde. It feels very similar to one right now because it's the observation of working through the past version of self that doesn't feel like it conforms to the current, like to the experience of working towards the self, right? But this is what we talk about. And this is what we often talk about in the understanding. Like, you want to understand what reborn means. Like, that's what energetic reborn means, right? It's understanding. And this is why we talk about inner child healing, because the modality and experience by which we work through something, right? The observation of being able to see something in the past that we could not see before is the space by which we energetically awaken to ourselves. And it can feel devastating, right? It can feel weighted. It can feel frustrated, but the ability to understand that the observation of seeing something in the past about the self that you wish that you could change is the gift that you bring to the present, right? That is the gift that we bring because we answer the call within ourselves to become the person that we wish that we could have been in those experiences of the past. So I feel like that's a lot of the energy of masculine that is working through modalities and experiences by which they're dealing with a lot of potential like observations in terms of like, and I keep on seeing like addressing the past, but not being dressed in the past, right? So the modality by which we articulate how much we have changed. Now moving towards feminine energy, can I get 3 cards, please? And we'll be utilizing for feminine's headspace right now, the Aquarian Tarot Italian edition. Can I get 3 cards, please? Thank you. Very fast. All 3 out very, very quickly. We've got the 10 of Cups in its reversal. We've got the 7 of Cups in its upright. And we've got the 9 of Wands in its reversal. So let's talk a little bit about what's going on in this feminine headspace right now and the energy that I'm seeing right now is very similar. There's a lot of alignment that we're identifying is happening right now between masculine and feminine. Bearing in mind, this is not based on gender, but what one feels most aligned to. Feminine is going through the pathwork of understanding that one does not need to forgive to heal. One does not need to forgive to heal. What do I mean by one does not need to forgive to heal? It's not about forgiving, it's about understanding. It's about recognizing, it's working into the context of recognizing what, and I keep on saying, what is forgivable and what feels energetically transgressive. And why do we see that a lot of the feminine is working through this? Because the observation of energetically forgiving everything is articulated in the context of having no boundaries, right? The modality by which we can learn to heal, right? The modality by which we articulate that our job needs to be to forgive and forgive and forgive and forgive and forgive and forgive and forgive. Well, if another person is not in that space, right? then that creates a disparity in relationality to the energy saying that being in the modality that says, "Oh, you just need to forgive and forgive and forgive and forgive and forgive." Somebody saying, "You just need to have no boundaries," right? It's not about the understanding of forgiving. It starts within the self. It's the observation of recognizing that you can allow a context by which you can move beyond something, but still maintain a strong energetic boundary in relationality to something that is not forgivable, right? Because the modality by which we understand that we are energetically sacred and we hold ourselves as sacred, that is where we become the energy that is protective, right? The modality and the experience by which we effectively articulate what is and is not okay helps to shape our energetic experiences. And that is a space by which our words are blessed. Because it's not about, I keep on hearing, it's not about a journey of energetic forgiveness for feminine. It's the modality by which the forgiveness comes in potentially healing from situations or circumstances that made one hold the modality or experience that articulated or told, like even in the space of a feminine navigating a transgression, another person articulating to them that that if they were in their feminine, that they would be in the conscientious space of being able to energetically forgive something. And this is not the case. That the understanding that our forgiveness effectively dictates the difference, right? The difference, and this is what we see right now that's going through the masculine and feminine energy, the difference between something that is done obtusely, right? Something that is done obtusely. So something that is done by which another person does not recognize what they are energetically doing versus what feels like it is energetically intentional, right? And we don't come into the modality of forgiving the intentional. Because all we do when we forgive the intentional is we condone the reprehensible. So we see that for a lot of the energy doing that work, having that conversation, being able to articulate the boundaries that they energetically hold in relationality to circumstances and situations, this is what is facilitating healthy energetic connection, because the modality by which you articulate a boundary or a standard and the context by which another person honors it, so long as we are able, and again, recognizing that it requires us to do the heavy invested work in assessing our standards to make sure that our standards are not our trauma in disguise, masquerading as our standards, the standards that are reasonable because they can be explained, then the modality by which another person receives them is an informational moment, right? It's an informational moment. It tells you everything you need to know about another person in the modality by which they energetically receive your standards. And that is the space by which we can articulate upon them, we can refine upon them, we can define them, but they stay energetically sacrosanct in the space by which we articulate the reasons by which we hold them. And often, and this is what's beautiful about understanding our past, the space by which we understand our past helps to articulate, becomes the energetic lesson in relationality to why it's so important to energetically hold them. Because those could even be modalities or experiences by which the feminine is working to heal or forgive themselves from situations or circumstances that made them feel energetically silly to have them. Now, this brings us to non-binary energy. And for non-binary energy, we are going to be utilizing the Tarot del Fuego for the headspace of non-binary. 3 cards, please. 3, thank you. We've got the 6 of Pentacles in its reversal. We've got the 3 of Swords in its reversal. And we also have the Knave of Wands in its reversal. So what do we effectively see that's occurring in relationality to those circumstances or experiences? For a lot of the non-binary energy right now, I feel like there's something really energetically important as it relates to, I keep on seeing, as it relates to working through work of productivity by which one is able to articulate, refine upon why something is energetically important. It feels very sacral in the non-binary headspace right now. And the thing that we see with a lot of that energy is working through the modality or the experience of trying to articulate to another. Like, I keep on hearing, like, and it has to do, like, I feel like there's a lot of that energy that is working through the observation of what it means to to be generous is what I keep on hearing. And I keep on hearing the message, like, generosity comes in many different forms. And the space by which I keep on hearing the space by which we work to be generous is the space by which we identify and recognize the shape of our energetic generosity. And the thing I keep on getting around this is working through the observation that when and it's interesting too because there's been this word that keeps on coming through as I've been doing reading, and it has to do with the word selfish. And the word selfish is interesting because when we think about the word selfish, we identify that there is typically an energetic demand behind what another person is aspiring that we are energetic selfish about. And it has to do with the modality of another person's like the space by which another person, and I keep on hearing the conversations happening of a lot of non-binary energy working through the experience of being called selfish in the midst of another person being greedy with their energy is what I keep on getting. Like the space by which another person is literally articulating the tale of another person, right? Defining them as being selfish because that person was being energetically greedy with their energy, right? And I keep on hearing something in relationality to selfish energy often tells on the self because the modality by which another person articulates the observation of being, and I keep on hearing typically when another person identifies one as being selfish, they can continue the sentence is what I keep on hearing. When someone is being energetically selfish, you can continue the sentence, which is to say, you are being selfish, and this is what I perceive that is creating the space of selfishness. But the ability to place the label of selfishness on something by which another person recognizes that another is greedy about their energy, right? This is a lot of the energy that's almost working through the modality of saying, pay attention when you hear that word, because it tells you everything you need to know in relationality or in proportionality to the situation, right? You often will hear the word selfish when another person is making demands upon us that are egregious, and so the modality by which we work through that is building into what feels energetically reciprocal. And I keep on hearing the continuation of the difference between being centered in self versus self centered, which is effectively articulating the observation of understanding the self, right? But I keep on hearing, there are those who will see a person who is centered in self and will articulate that they are selfish because the space by which they hold themselves with a sense of compassion isn't the same gift that that individual gives to themselves, is what I keep on seeing. Continuing to get clarification, moving back towards the masculine, we'll be reading into the heart space right now. Can I get 3 cards, please? And we'll be utilizing the Aquarian Tarot right now for the heart space of masculine. 1, 2, 3. Whoop. And you have to bear with me a moment because the cards that we have just fell down. But that's also very interesting. Can I get 3 cards to clarify? We've got the 6 of Cups in its reversal. We've got the Magician card in its reversal. And we have the Temperance card in its upright. So let's talk a little bit about what we are seeing in relationality to the heart space of the masculine. And I feel like this is a lot of the energy. And this is really fascinating too, because this is a lot of the energy of the masculine looking backwards so that they can look forwards. This is a lot of the energy of the masculine saying, I look backwards so I can go forwards, right? We never let go of the past. And the reason that by which we don't let go of the past is because the path work, there are important things in the past, right? And the observation of being looking back in the past allows us the context of not energetically repeating things that we would prefer not to repeat in the present. And so for a lot of the energy doing that work, I just keep on seeing for the heart space of masculine, it has to do, it's effectively facilitating and articulating upon the observation of what happens when one is too deep in one's energetic ego, right? And this is a continuation. This is a type of stuff that we can often notice that happens when we're going through Cancer full moon cycles, because it's the observation, right? What is the true meaning of inner child healing? Inner child healing does not mean that you are in the modality by which you're working to heal from the person you were when you were just a small child. You are healing from the person that you were when you thought you knew everything. The modality and the experience of observing, like that is what's so difficult about inner child healing. The unhealed inner child thinks they know everything. And often those modalities or experiences that we're working to release or we're working to heal from can be those modalities by which we felt, right? Those modalities by which we felt really energetically like firm on something. And then we look back and we feel like the thing that we were being firm upon felt very silly, felt very unnecessary, right? These are the signs of often being in the modality of being too deep in the ego. And what's beautiful about that is, again, and this is what we see with the Cancerian lessons, the space by which we work to release the ego is not entirely, because we can't get rid of the ego the whole way through. There's always an ego there. Like we learn that through the Cancerian lesson. The space by which we shed, there's always an ego beneath the ego. But the modality by which we have an energetic ego that we're proud of carries the shape of the soul within it, right? It's the modality by which we recognize and identify ourselves, not those moments by which we feel like we see ourselves and we feel like we are being energetically incomprehensible. So that's why we have a lot of that energy that's working through the observation of the incomprehensible being reprehensible, because there's a lot of that energy that works through the modality that emotions build things or emotions break things, right? Those modalities or those experiences by which we're able to energetically articulate upon something, but not just the space by which we articulate upon it, the space by which we can truly let another person know how we feel. I feel like this is a lot of the energy of masculine moving towards the energetic shedding of the egoic self to get closer to the center of the self, by which they're able to build that healthy relationship. This is why that work is so important, right? Because if we don't do the work to heal our ego, we enter a relationship and we are unfathomable, right? And then we get upset of ourselves because we feel like we're not energetically connected to counterpart. How can you be? You can't be deep in your ego and have a connection with someone, right? The ego won't let go. It wants to hold on. It wants to energetically protect the self. So the work that we do, right? The work that we do to energetically, I keep on hearing, release it piece by piece, right? Piece by piece. It doesn't happen overnight, but a little bit every day goes a long way. Like I see a lot of this energy that's working on saying like the solution might not be harder, it's softer, right? The modality of experiencing the space by which we work through something is the observation or the ability to effectively articulate to another that we're working towards that vulnerability. So I just keep on seeing that for a lot of the masculine doing that work, it's hard because there may be some anger that's coming up, and it has to do with anger of the past self in relationality to I keep on hearing, I keep on hearing feeling so hard about something that was ultimately so unnecessary. Now moving back towards feminine, we're gonna be utilizing the Tarot del Fuego right now for the heart space of feminine. 3 cards to clarify, please. 1, 2, 3. We've got the Hermit card in its upright. We've got the 8 of Wands in its reversal. And we also have the 10 of Swords in its reversal. So this is very important too, because what we're effectively seeing in relationality to this energy, and it's interesting, the only card that's upright right now in the heart space of feminine is the Hermit card. And what does that effectively tell us? That is working through the space by which the feminine is being more careful with their heart space. I just keep on seeing a circumstance or situation by which the feminine is articulating and stating the sense of being more energetically careful with the heart space. And I keep on getting that for a lot of that energy, or working through a lot of those modalities or experiences, that observation, right? And it's a continuation of understanding that the job is not forgiving everything. It's about having I keep on hearing, having a heart that is soft while also maintaining strong energetic standards around that heart. Because the thing is, um, the modality by which we navigate situations, I just keep on hearing the same message for feminine. Again, bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what one feels aligned to. Healthy love does not require us to leave our standards. Healthy love does not require us to leave our standards. That's all there is to it. Healthy love does not require us to leave our standards. And the space by which feminine works to forgive, right? In the space by which feminine lets go of the falsity of the need to forgive everything, the space by which feminine feels they need to forgive everything is forgiving. This is the feminine doing their own inner child healing. The feminine that felt like they had to abandon their standards to find love. This is what the feminine is working to heal and to forgive within. Because that, and they're saying, and I keep on seeing that the observation of the feminine recognizing that being in the proportionality of someone trying to drill into them, the fact that if they were in their feminine, they would learn to forgive everything, right? This is the song of how you make someone lose their energetic standards, right? The song by which you say to another, right, that you have to forgive every energetic transgression on your heart space, right? That is while also doing everything you can for the sake of love. That moves one further and further and further and further and further away from the self, right? You become non-corporeal because you don't necessarily stand towards anything, right? You become effectively a shadow of the self. So that's why we see that for a lot of the feminine doing that work, the ability of understanding that healthy love stands with our standards, right? And it's not even the space by which we have to let go of triggers, because triggers are important. Triggers are supposed to be directly planted beside a standard, right? Some things are supposed to energetically trigger us. Some things are supposed to effectively bother us. But the modality by which another person sees us upset and tries to say that we're energetically hysterical in our upsetness tells us a lot about the condition by which another person aspires or desires to energetically find us. So that's why we see that for a lot of the energy doing that work, that observation, right? The modality or the experience of having to heal from experiences by which energy was effectively causing harm to feminine for the sake of trying to knock down their standards, right? the space by which the feminine felt those modalities or experiences by which another person tried to articulate that the feminine's like issue was in the having of them. We just keep on seeing that for a lot of the feminine, that conversation is effectively energetically shaping the direction of the healthy relationship, because this is a lot of the feminine that's working into that space of what it means to be held from a state of preciousness. And it starts with observing how energetically precious we are, right? That modality or experience by which we hold ourselves preciously becomes a gift to all of those around us, because it's the modality and experience by which we articulate. And I keep on hearing, even in the modality by which another person tries to articulate the fact that we have gone too far. I just keep on hearing feminine almost articulating upon the space of us saying to another, have I gone too far, or are you headed in the wrong direction? Have I gone too far, or are you headed in the wrong direction? Continuing to get clarification, moving back to non-binary energy. And for non-binary energy, we are going to be reading into, we're going to be doing the heart space of non-binary. Can I get 3 cards to clarify? We're going to be utilizing the Smith-Waite Centennial deck for the heart space of non-binary. 1, 2, 3. We've got Hierophant in its reversal. We've got the 3 of Cups in its upright. And we also have the World card. Now, this is really beautiful energy that we're seeing here. So let's talk a little bit about it. This is the modality. I feel like a lot of the non-binary energy is working into the context of healthy relationship. And I keep on hearing that the healthy relationship that non-binary energy seeks is one that is often articulated or identified by something that feels, I keep on hearing, the unconventionality as it relates to working through dynamic partnership is all I keep on seeing. And I keep on getting that one of the things that we're effectively identifying or recognizing there is working through the modality or experience by which we recognize and identify. And I keep on seeing the beautiful thing about a relationship is that no 2 relationships are alike. And this is what's interesting too. Like, I feel like there's a conversation that's happening right now, particularly for a lot of that energy, which is working through the understanding that what might be good for one relationship might be completely detrimental to another, right? It's all about energetic alignment. And that's why I see that for a lot of the relationships, like a lot of the work that they do in relationships is trying to help another recognize, right? It's like, and I feel like it's interesting because I'm getting a little bit of this energy there that says, do as I say, like do like take advice, but don't do what we like, don't try to compare. And this is why comparison is so energetically detrimental to a relationship, because the modality by which you start to energetically compare, right? When you take into accommodation the fact that no 2 relationships are alike, right? You take into the equation, no 2 relationships are alike. And then you add to that equation the fact that comparison is the energetic thief of joy. What happens in the modality by which another person says or articulates and says, like, I want what you have, right? That's coveting. Is what I keep that's what coveting means. That's what coveting means, right? It's taking into the equation of saying no 2 relationships are alike. And we work to effectively foster the relationship that we are energetically proud of, right? The relationship that allows us the space to be all that we aspire it to be. But the modality, you can't have that. You will never have that in your entire life if you spend your whole life craning your neck to see what other relationships are up to, because it's the modality by which you can be energetically inspired, right? You can be inspired by something. You can be elated by it, but the minute that you come into the space of energetically comparing yours to another, you effectively remove right? You remove the energetic preciousness of a connection. If you ever want to watch how quickly, if you ever want to watch how quickly something that you hold preciously moves into the space of feeling energetically worthless within the self, come into the context of comparing. It's a foolish game. It's a child's game, right? The modality by which you understand that nothing is the same and everything we do is working towards exquisite is the modality by which comparison needs to be energetically removed. And the sooner I feel like a lot of that energy saying the sooner that we do that, the sooner we can actually get to talking about the beauty that can be found in relationship, right? Because it's not the space of saying, "How do you do that?" Right? It's not the space by which you say, "How do you do that?" It's the space by which you say, "How can I become that?" Right? Like, that is the question. That is effectively what we effectively work towards. Now, continuing to get clarification, can I get we've got 3 cards right now. Bottom of the deck bottom of the deck for, masculine energy. Again, bearing in mind, this is not based on gender, but what one feels most aligned to. Can I get 3 cards, please? And we'll be utilizing the Aquarian Tarot for the unconscious of them. Oh, wait, no, apologies. I'm gonna keep this card here because I drew it, and we're gonna be using the Tarot del Fuego for the heart space of masculine, but I'm gonna keep that one there because I drew it, so that's where it stays. Um, 2 more cards, please. We've got here the 4 of Pentacles in its upright, in combination with the 7 of Cups in its reversal, in combination with the Empress in its reversal. So this is effectively what we're effectively seeing here is a continuation. I keep on getting it's a continuation of working through the emotions that come up during a full moon in Cancer. And that's the thing about it. The thing I like to articulate, full moons in Cancer, like they're not so bad if you've been doing your shadow work effectively because you're like, "Oh, there's some feelings that come up." Like moving on, right? There's a lot of stuff that can kind of like come out of the energetic like embodiment of the self. It can bring feelings out. But the modality by which we effectively energetically work through the feelings that we build upon is the amplification and the articulation in relationality to I keep on seeing and this is what we have to understand and this is what a lot of I feel like a lot of the masculine are working through. There is no relationship on this planet that will energetically save you from yourself. There is no relationship on this planet that will save you from yourself. But those who are not in a healthy space will look at the world and say, "You know what? The only like a good relationship will fix me." No, it won't. Because the modality by which you approach something and say a good relationship will fix me, you're outsourcing. Like that is the sound of you trying to outsource the work of the self. Right? Like the space by which you say, "You know what'll fix me? A good relationship. If I just found the right person," you have to be the right person. You have to be your right person, right? Because what happens in that energy that's constantly going around going, "You know what? It just stinks." It's the weirdest thing. Every relationship I go into turns into absolute garbage. Yeah, it looks good when I first get into it, and then I don't know, the weirdest, craziest thing happens. I go into it, something that's perfectly fine, and all of a sudden it becomes horrible, and everybody else looks at that person and goes, "Really? Tell me more." Tell me more. Please go on about how dissatisfied you are in relationality to what you're finding in relationship. Because here's the thing, it's a two-part system, right? It's the modality and experience that when someone says, "I keep on finding my relationships lacking," you're half of the equation. you're half of the equation. And that's not to say that all of the energy rests within the context of the self, right? But the observation and often the first sign, right? The warning sign of somebody who's not going to find a healthy relationship is the energy that says, you know what'll fix me? A good relationship. It's not the case because often that is the problem. And when we start to make ourselves, when we start to fix the relationship with ourselves, if we become the energetic person that we're proud of, then guess what we have? Guess what we find? We find the relationship that complements us. We find the relationship that supports our efforts towards ourselves. We find the relationship by which we can energetically ascend higher within what we've already done. We don't look at relationship like a ladder, right? Because if you look at relationship like a ladder, you'll always be in the modality by which you feel like you're energetically hanging on instead of putting into, right? It's the modality by which we don't energetically cling to things. It's the energy by which we push, we allow for our sense of energetic like aspiration to effectively guide us. So I feel like I see a lot of the energy that is working through that modality and either again building into the context of healing actively, either moving towards healthy relationship with that particular mindset while forgiving the past self that may have been too much in the energetic ego to be able to effectively see it, or potentially allowing the context of releasing those modalities or abilities by which they felt that they were looking at relationship from a prescriptive perspective. Now, continuing towards feminine, and we'll be utilizing, and it's interesting too, because that is why the Aquarian tarot card came out in the unconscious space, right? Because it's that observation, right? If you seek, you never find. If you build, you start to create. Now, continuing to get clarification, unconscious space of feminine energy, and we will be utilizing the Smith-Waite Centennial deck for the unconscious of the feminine right now. 1, 2, 3. We've got here the Eight of Swords in its upright. We've got the Page of Cups in its reversal, and this Page of Cups in its reversal has been coming up all week. And the Four of Wands in its upright. So the feminine, I feel like there's a lot of the feminine that is working through, and I got to explain this. I feel like a lot of what we're seeing right now is as a result of Chiron going direct in Aries yesterday. There is something about the proximation point that two things happened yesterday. We need to pay more close attention. While everybody was getting all in their emotions, while everyone was getting all in their emotions related to Cancer in like the full moon in Cancer in Capricorn season, nobody's paying attention to the fact that Chiron just stationed direct in Aries. And Chiron stationing direct in Aries can often talk about the space of reaching our energetic limit on things. Chiron retrograde coming into stationing direct in Aries can often articulate upon the fact that it's good to have limits, right? Because what does it mean? Good to have limits means limits are where standards are, right? And the modality and experience by which we can articulate about our limits often show another. And this is the thing about it. When we're in a healthy space, we're proud of our limits. Like when we're in a healthy space, we are energetically very proud of our limits because we talk about the fact that we say that's reached the energetic limit of something because it's the modality by which we don't take it personally. We talk about our limits proudly, right? So the modality or the experience by which we energetically articulate or amplify that becomes our point of strength. So I see that for a lot of the energy. This is energy of the feminine, potentially healing from situations by which they looked at the past and said, I couldn't fix it. And almost the higher self looking at feminine being like, is that a situation that was trying to get fixed? Right? The modality by which the feminine looks at something and says, I can fix anything. And the feminine going, and I almost feel like the higher self, the feminine saying, you're right. You can fix anything, but it's a two-part system. All the work is possible so long as the work is mutual. So if you're in a space by which you're constantly trying to fix something that another person does not desire fixed, it often can make you feel like you're running, like I keep on hearing that is the sound of a Sisyphusian effort, right? Like the modality by which you say, I work and work, and instead of it getting easier, it gets energetically harder, or the space by which we feel like you say to another person, I'm giving anything, right? I'm giving you everything. And the space by which another person does not say, I am also changing, but they say thank you. Like the modality by which we recognize, sometimes the modality by which we recognize and identify that that's happening. That's how the healing comes through, right? It's a lot of that it's a lot of that, like, that recognition point, and even in the space and I feel like for a lot of the feminine, having those modalities, it's like and it's interesting too, because, like and this is the thing about it, feminine's just understanding, and it's interesting that we see the Empress card in the reversal, um, in the masculine space, because this is the feminine saying, if another person doesn't like you in the process of you holding your standards, that's a blessing. That is a blessing, right? The modality, as long as you can explain, again, as long as you can explain your standard, right? A healthy standard, a healthy standard is not confounding. A healthy standard is blessed by talking about it. A healthy standard is something that we're energetically proud to talk about. So long as we energetically speak upon it, it's not energetically unreasonable, right? The modality by which we articulate. But you will go through unreasonable things, right? And you will go through the space by which another person says, I hate that person. Why? I'm not inclined to talk about it. That's interesting, right? That's why when somebody says they don't like someone, you don't just take them at face value. You say, go on. Why don't you tell me a little bit more? And if they go, I'm not really inclined to say, oh, that's interesting. You're not inclined to say. You're not inclined to say, right? The modality by which we understand that what will happen is there are those you will hold your standards and another person will hate you for them. Another person will not like you. Another person will project on you in the space of do it anyway. There's nothing more energetically blessed than being in the space by which you can clearly say, I know that person doesn't like me, but let me tell you a little bit about why. Right? Let me tell you a little bit about let us sit together. Let us sit together and tell each other the tale as to why that person has the hard feelings, right? Because often you'll notate that the energy, right, the energy that doesn't want to talk about it goes, I don't want to talk about it. Why? Was there some kind of ego thing happening there, right? The modality, but it's good. This is what we mean by saying it's good to talk about it. We mean by talking about it, we find the good in situations. And that modality or experience is the space by which we're able to effectively find those energetic points of healing. Now, and this is what I keep on seeing, and especially and that's why I find, like, again, if you are a tarot nerd, make sure that you take a look at the feminine hearts, like, unconscious space right now, because this trio here, like, let me just show you guys for those who are listening to the podcast, you can find the picture on my stack. Look at look at this, right? Right? This is feminine being like, I don't like this energy of feminine going like somebody being like, I don't like you. And you being like, well, can you please go on about why? And being like, because you're not doing what I want you to do. You're not being very energetically pleasant right now. Right? You've got too many standards. Right? Your standards are too now and keep on hearing, as long as your standards are reasonable, they're not too high. they're not too high for those who are ready to meet them. Now, continuing to get clarification, unconscious of non-binary energy, and we'll be utilizing the Aquarian Tarot for these. 3 cards, please. 1, 2, 3. Thank you. We've got here the Death card in its reversal. We've got here the Ace of Swords in its upright, and we have the Knight of Pentacles. It's a lot of slow and steady energy right now, and I think that this is the gift that non-binary energy is giving themselves, right? I feel like a lot of non-binary energy, the thing about this type of, and I wanna describe this. This type of energy, it's not a Venus in retrograde, but you'd be surprised because it sure feels like one, right? And the modality by which we feel and the thing with Venus in retrograde and the difference between this energy in and a Venus in retrograde, this energy is actually harder than a Venus in retrograde cycle right now because typically a Venus in retrograde cycle, we're just dealing with the distortion of the self, like the distorted perception of the self, right? Oh, I'm hideous. Like that type of energy. This is the energy that deals with others' projections of us. Right? And the truth is, when you're in your authenticity, never will those who are not willing to do their shadow work try to project their shadow work upon you. It's just I know it's difficult. It's just the nature of experience, right? Because when somebody is so deep in their ego that they feel trapped within it, when they feel like they're living a life that is not in their authenticity, a lot of energetic feelings come up when they see when they see another person that is effectively doing the hard work to be able to navigate the space of being in their authenticity. And here's the thing about it. I keep on hearing some energy making the preconception that that is an easy journey, right? It is never easy. It is never easy for anyone to ever be in their authenticity. It is the hardest thing that one can effectively navigate. I keep wondering in a space by which it is so hard to work through and working through the fact of recognizing others' projections onto us, right? The modality by which we navigate that is the experience that we enter each and every day, right? And the space by which another person sees us in that modality and articulates and says, must be nice. There is nothing there. That is the sound of entitlement, right? The modality of seeing someone doing the hardest thing possible and then another person articulating and saying, it must be nice. About nicety. We don't work towards authenticity for the sake of niceness. It is a gift that we give ourselves, and it is a gift that we give everyone energetically around us. And that modality, the sooner we start erasing this idea, this identification point that that identity, like I keep wondering, identity is articulated from a place of easement, that it is often the space by which energy works. Like never is there a lack of empathy than seeing another person doing the hardest thing possible and another person articulating and saying, it must be easy. It must be nice, right? The shape of the shape of the understanding of the fact that work and this is the energy, like I keep wondering, this is energy that has come to terms with the fact that they will be inscrutable in energy in the existence of those who don't want to energetically do the work on the self, right? The observation of not feeling that you have to explain, right? The space by which you shouldn't feel the need of existing to effectively make another person like, and I keep on hearing too, there's something about the unconscious there that works through the ability to identify the difference between curiosity, like the difference between a desire to understand versus another person versus another person, um, like, I wanna find a word for it. There used to be a word there's a word, like, I keep on hearing, um, the intentionally obtuse question of someone the intentionally obtuse question of someone who has already made whose mind of a closed mind, like, of a closed mind is what I keep on hearing. The obviously obtuse question of a closed mind, which is the space by which I keep on getting, like, the space by which another person asks something, um, not for the sake of interest, but I keep on hearing, um, in the space of assuming that another person, like, that another person's existence is only meant to elicit comfortability within them, is what I keep on hearing. There's something very attenuated there that I potentially will need to dig deeper into that may potentially be coming up in relationality to the relationship cycles, but it's a very specific energy that I feel like that those who are in that modality are able to energetically pick up on. The best way I can describe it is that, right? The question that is not invested in understanding, but the question that a closed mind asks that points to the direction of saying, "Why are you invested in making me uncomfortable?" Failing to recognize that the world does not energetically revolve. Like, even in the asking of it, an energy points out the fact that they look at a world that is entirely centered around the self instead of centered in self. That is, bottom of the deck right now on these reads for masculine energy, bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what one feels most aligned to. Death card in its reversal, right? This is what the masculine is healing from, right? The question that feels directed in terms of saying the question, the egoic question is always, "Why are you making me feel uncomfortable? Why are you making me feel uncomfortable?" And this is what I see a lot of masculine energy is healing from. The modality of an experience of feeling energetically mortified and experiences by which it feels like, in a way, shape, or form, they were working through too much of an egoic space. And it felt like the direction of the conversation was, "You're making me feel uncomfortable. I don't like that. You're making me feel uncomfortable. Go away." Because when we're having transformational moments, we have to navigate discomfort. Right? If you want to change, discomfort is the space by which you will change. And that's why I see that for a lot of the masculine energy, this is the work that they're doing. They're saying, "I am getting more attenuated to navigating discomfort." Right? And I keep on seeing not I keep on hearing not the discomfort. Like, I keep on hearing, like, not the and this is what we can expect with Uranus and Taurus, right? Not the discomfort. Right, not the discomfort that attenuates something that isn't healthy for the self, but the healthy discomfort, right? The healthy discomfort that we build into in relationality to learning more about the self or growing more in some way, right? I am becoming comfortable with navigating uncomfort because I know that in the space by which I feel uncomfortable, that is the sound of me energetically expanding and growing, right? While maintaining energetic standards, right? You can be uncomfortable as you're holding standards, and often standards will bring you to uncomfortable spaces. That's the wild thing about it, right? Standards will bring you to uncomfortable spaces because it's the desire to effectively understand, to recognize, to learn, and to grow in a healthy way. While continuing for feminine energy, bottom of the deck on feminine, we've got here Page of Wands in its reversal. Now, this is really intriguing because we've got the Page of Wands in its reversal in the masculine space. So we see that for a lot of the feminine right now, this is working through, right? This is working through the modality or experience of navigating like, I keep on hearing obtuse or intentional, obtuse or intentional. And why is the feminine keep on saying obtuse or intentional? When someone does not know what they do, they can often do things that are failure points in the self, right? There's nothing more disruptive or sadder than the modality by which you see someone working through something in a way that they can't energetically recognize the fact that they're creating that energetic hurdle within. That is the space by which something is forgivable, right? Another person articulating to us they did not recognize or they did not understand, then that often creates the context by which we recognize that another person is moving through a transformational process. But when somebody, and this is why that work was coming up, when somebody is energetically, when someone is intentionally obtuse, there's nothing to save there, right? The modality by which another person navigates things from a place of intentional obtuseness, right? The modality by which another person tries to articulate the fact that they don't know, they don't understand, or they don't know. And this is why it was coming up so much in the non binary headspace, I mean, unconscious space, because the space by which another person, right, tries to articulate upon something in such a way by which they make us I feel like I keep on hearing the space by which another person tries to articulate to us that they don't know what they're energetically doing the whole time being very intentional with the space by which they try to direct their obtuseness. I keep on seeing that a lot of that energy of feminine is working through that same experience because I keep on hearing it's the difference in understanding what it means by which another person says, I identify and recognize that the problem rests within me that I need to effectively work through, versus energy saying, are you done being like that yet? Have you let go of those pesky standards? This is a lot of the energy of the feminine recognizing that there's some path work that they could go back to. It would just require like, it's not a question of whether you can go back there, it's a question of who you would have to be in order to be within it. And that's why I see a lot of that energy, like, working into the capacity of healing from circumstances or situations by which they recognize that the end point had to do with the modality by which they weren't going to effectively, depart or move away from their energetic standards. It's a continuation of the journey that says a healthy relationship honors our standards. An unhealthy relationship will articulate the need to throw them away in order to stay within one. While for the non-binary energy right now, and can I please get one card at the bottom of the deck? I know where this is going right now. Tarot del Fuego. This is a lover's card, right? This is why we talk about healthy standards are shared. It's the modality by which we feel energetic alignment that articulates and significates what we feel energetically in concordance to. So for a lot of the energy, and this is why I keep on seeing, like, I feel like there's a lot of this non-binary energy that says, understand, like, understand the uniqueness of every relationship. Don't feel like you see a perfect relationship and say, I'll just do that and it'll fix it. Or that works for them. Look how great they're doing. This is why that doesn't work, because it's not the modality. What works for one might not work for another, right? This is what we talk about a healthy relationship, is not being prescriptive and saying, like, that's what they're doing, we should do that. Right? It's like, because you can't do that. Because you could take something that feels like it's positive in one relationship and you try to bring into another, and it confounds it, makes it energetically negative. It all works through the attenuation point of building into the context of what effectively works, right? And this is why the gift that we have in relationship is knowing ourselves. Because the more that we know ourselves when we enter a relationship, the more that we're able to find energy by which we can build alignment to in relationality to the partnership that we aspire and desire for. So this is a lot of the energy that is working through that space. And I can almost see the energy that articulates that they hold, right? This is why they hold their relationship as a point of energetic virtue, because I keep on seeing that is the energy that understands, that says they didn't stumble into a perfect relationship. They worked towards it, and they went within to find one without. That is our daily collective read for today. I want to thank you guys so much for being here and experiencing it. Just a reminder, if you would like to book a private reading with me, it is a two-step process. You have to book the reading, you have to pay for the reading. Please make sure you do both if you would like to have that reading. Most importantly, please remember that I will never, ever, 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 ever reach out to you for a private reading. I will never DM you. I will never PM you. I will never slide into your inbox and tell you that I have a very important message that only I can deliver. The only way you can book a reading with me is if you book one on my site. So I would encourage you to do it there. A couple of updates before we move into our personal readings today. First and foremost, I would like to invite all of you to a very special retreat that we will be hosting this August. I'd like to invite you to join me on a trip to Tuscany, Rome, and Florence, where we'll be working to sharpen our tarot skills while also understanding the culture by which the tarot was first documented to be discovered, to understand what allowed it the context of being able to flourish and thrive. We will be traveling to Rome, Tuscany, and Florence, and everyone who participates in that retreat will also be receiving not only one on one work with me in relationality to the tarot, but also a unique one on one mentorship class with me that is included in your purchase, where I will meet with you to assess where you are on your own personal tarot journey and give you the best insights in terms of how to utilize those classes to the best of your advantage, moving towards your tarot goals going forward. One of the things I tried to do in these classes was make them accessible to the absolute novice tarot reader as well as the seasoned reader. There's definitely something there for everyone. Don't let your lack of experience or your robust experience prevent you from joining us in these classes. And even if you don't become a paid subscriber to my stack, I would encourage you to follow me there to stay up to date on any new offerings or services. I also post my weekly newsletter there, which will let you know about my in-person events as well as my online live schedule. You'll also have access to my Mystic Meditation articles. We just released one on navigating this full moon in Cancer that we just experienced. You can find it over there, currently active on the stack. I also want to invite you guys to our next tarot class in our Tarot Church class series. We will be studying the World card, the final card of the major arcana. If you'd like to become a part of that class program, your paid subscription to my stack is your ticket of entry. Monthly subscribers will have access to over not only to the live class, but access to over 9 hours worth of material in the Tarot Church Library archive. You'll also have access to a one-on-one chat with me to ask any questions that you may have in relation to anything we've studied thus far. And if you become a founding member, not only will you receive a discount on the full year's worth of classes, but you will also receive a complimentary one-on-one mentorship class with me, as I mentioned, where I will meet with you to assess where you are on your personal journey and give you the best insights in terms of how to utilize those classes to the best of your advantage, moving towards your tarot goals going forward. And you'll also have access to over 20 hours worth of material in the Tarot Church Library class archive. One of the things I tried to do in these classes was make them accessible to the absolute novice tarot reader as well as the seasoned reader. There's definitely something there for everyone. Don't let your lack of experience or your robust experience prevent you from joining us in these classes. And even if you don't become a paid subscriber to my stack, I would encourage you to follow me there to stay up to date on any new offerings or services. I also post my weekly newsletter there. I also want to let you guys know that on top of my standard life path readings, I also offer mentorship classes. These are for any of my students seeking a more personalized educational experience with me. I take a very limited number of students for this reason, as those classes are focused on each individual's personal spiritual goals and journey work. Those classes can be purchased on an individual level or as a monthly class series, weekly or bi-weekly as your schedule permits. Also, for my students seeking more consistent weekly tarot support, I'm very happy to offer weekly tarot insight packages. That is a package of 4 30-minute readings, again, weekly or bi-weekly as your schedule permits, so that you can stay more consistent on your personal journey. I'm also very happy to now offer dream interpretation readings, which you can purchase per dream or as a series. If you purchase a series, I would encourage you to start to keep a dream journal, as we will meet weekly or bi-weekly with that journal and utilize the tarot to understand the key themes and messages coming towards you in the dream space. I want to thank you guys so much for being here today and sharing in these messages. And we will do this again tomorrow.